a day like this last week, Saturday the 7th, I did my 5th video in this series. And taking the challenge from Amos, my friend, I shifted from individuals to the Kenya we want, which then will include the Kenya we don't want. And I said there are a number of things we will look at, which if we addressed, and if we address, we will achieve the Kenya we want. The last thing I talked about for that Saturday, because there are a number of them I'm to do today and perhaps next week, was about security. I said in the Kenya we want, every Kenyan will feel secure. Abductions, torture, police brutality, assassinations, murder will not feature at all. That's the Kenya we want. I said that Kenya is possible. A Kenya in which we all feel safe in the knowledge that government is there to protect life and property. Life is important. And the number one duty of government, like we said, is to ensure that Kenyans enjoy that to the fullest. Little did I know that on the same day, what will remain a sad day for this country, a young man, Albert Ojwang, who will be arrested, tortured, killed, to die in the hands of the police. I didn't know that. Same day, when I said the Kenya we want must be a Kenya free from these kind of things. A Kenya where all of us live knowing that our children and their children will live in a good country. I didn't know. Nobody would have known. As we continue looking at the Kenya we want, we must urge those with the power to do harm to others to help us build the Kenya we want. At the end of the day, and after all, this Kenya we want will be a good place for your grandchildren. Today, you have the power to kill, the power to torture, but you may not have the power to make your grandchildren enjoy life. Help us create that future for your granddaughter. Help us create an environment in which your great-grandchildren will enjoy. That's the Kenya we want. The brutality that we live in a Kenya where by design individuals can sit down and plan to travel 400 kilometers to go and get an individual and do great harm to that individual, leading to their death. That can't be the Kenya we want. That would be Kenya, a Kenya of deranged people. leaving the details out for ethical and other reasons. It reminds me of a young man who traveled 350 kilometers to some part of this country, I don't want to say where, with a dangerous weapon, I don't want to say which, to go and look for a girl in a love gone sour kind of arrangement, and did things to that girl, which again I don't want to say. That can only happen to somebody who is deranged. We want to live in a Kenya where we value human life. Valuing human life means you value yourself, you value your children, you value your grandchildren. I want to inform some of these people who commit these atrocities that you take your children through great trauma. The people featuring today in the murder of Albert Ojwang should know that their children are not at peace today. Not from people who can harass them online and even physically. That can happen, but that's not what I'm talking about. Think of your child in a school in this country, and everybody knows you are associated with the brutal murder and torture of Albert Ojwang. Think of your little girl in school. Think of your little boy in grade 4, grade 5, hearing other children mention you as a murderer. Please think about your children. Do not visit trauma upon your children in pursuit of narrow parochial interests. Nothing in the world is worth protecting by killing. Nothing. Nothing. There is nothing in this country you can fight for to the point of taking away the life of another human being. Nothing. Nothing. I don't see any. Even to be a president of a country like Kenya, which is a poor third world country, is not worth killing a human being for. And I'm not saying anybody has killed anybody for that. For your information, if you stopped 100 people in New York, random, just random, of all ages and color and everything, in New York City, and asked them whether they know Kenya, maybe 90%, 90 of them will never have heard of Kenya, or 80. Another 5 have heard of Kenya. They think it is in Nigeria. Another 2 may think it's in Australia, a town in Australia. Only a miserable 3% or 4, 5% of people will know Kenya is an African country in Africa. Let's not go even into asking those who know who is the president of Kenya. We are a tiny little thing. But we can make this little thing a good home for all of us, for our children and their children. That is the Kenya we want. We want to live in a Kenya where we appreciate each other, where we disagree within the context of brotherhood, where you run for office, give it your best, you lose and shake the hand of the winner, where you win parliamentary seat, the presidency, 5 years you lose, you go home and come back after 5 years, like Mahama did in Ghana, and you come back and the people elect you back as member of parliament, as senator, as governor. Irungu in Laikipia lost. He came back. Lusaka in Bungoma lost. He's back. That is the Kenya we want. We want a Kenya where there's nothing that is a matter of life and death. Nothing. Because there's nothing worth fighting for to that point. There's nothing. I've even given the example of the whole country. Even to be president of this country is not a big thing. You may feel a little great, but there was Jomo Kenyatta. There was Daniel Arap Moi. There was Mwai Kibaki. Literally and physically, they are no more. There has been Uhuru Kenyatta. Anapiga round zake pole pole tu. That is the Kenya we are thinking of. A Kenya where there's nothing worth killing another human being for. Nothing. Because there isn't anyway. At the end of the day, there is nothing. And I'm speaking openly. And I'm speaking on behalf of many Kenyans. And I'm saying there is nothing, absolutely nothing worth killing another human being for. Nothing. Nothing. Least of all your ego. And I want to tell leaders to brace themselves in the years ahead. These young people we have taken to school, our children and grandchildren, in the advancement in science and technology, my friend, we have seen nothing. Let's prepare ourselves. Let's prepare ourselves as leaders, as parents, as principals in schools. You ain't seen nothing yet. You are going to see stuff. What Kenya am I looking at? I'm saying today I'm concentrating on the Kenya we want in the context of human life and dignity. We must start looking at Kenyans as human beings. We must also understand the simple truth that a society is judged by the way they treat their less fortunate members. So the Kenya we want is a Kenya where people don't live like dogs in the things we call slums. We must begin thinking big on how to eradicate Kibra from the face of Nairobi. The Kenya we want must accord human beings dignity so that there's no Kawangara in Kenya. No Mkuru kwa Njenga. Kibarage slums. Mathare slums. They are not even slums. That is the Kenya we must begin thinking of. We cannot arrive at that Kenya through this nonsense of affordable housing. Putting up 2,000, 5,000 houses in a year, 20,000 if you wish, 30 if you wish. Then you can be happy there are 30 or 40. You can't even get there. But let's give you 30 or 40, even 50,000 per year. In a city that requires immediately more than 2 million houses. We need big thinking to bring dignity to the Kenyan man and woman by giving them reasonable habitat. Not living like animals in those things you call slums. Life to be lived like human beings. We have normalized death in this country. So that death means nothing to us. It's normal. People in Londiani Junction are selling things on the road. A trailer rams into them. We lose tens of people. The minister goes there swaggering. And boards a helicopter to go and attend a function, goat eating function. Nothing has happened. It's no, and then, after a month, the stupid measures put in place, people forget. And you pass there, people are still rushing in the roads. Human life means nothing to us. An innocent family, traveling in a family car, heading home for a function, end their lives on the road because we have allowed mad people behind the wheels. A matatu just rams into them. And we forget human life is nothing to us. We handle patients carelessly, without any care in the world. A hospital goes without very essential drugs, and we are just normal. It's normal. People just die. When pikipikis, borders, the motorcycles came in this country, as a person who is informed, I warned Kenyans. I said, these things have caused havoc elsewhere in the world. Be careful as you invite them. Today, you are innocently crossing the road, a border hits you. Your life is brought to an end. You have died. Or you are physically disabled. Life changes for you. And tomorrow, for the border people, life continues the way it is. Just continues. They roam the streets without helmets, without reflectors, without any care. They are our children. We have failed to give them jobs. We must create jobs for them. We are lying to them that they can make life out of border. That's a lie. Almost every hospital in this country is handling border victim. And we are laughing. It's normal for us that there's a ward in every hospital handling border accident victims. Every mortuary in this country will not fail to have a corpse or two in every month of a person whose death has been caused by a border. Yet for us it is normal. Human life is just normal. Death is normal in this country. That's not the Kenya we want. We want to create a Kenya where one death is too many. When terrorists attacked Garissa University and about 147 young men and women died at the university, there was a hashtag, 147 is not a number. So we live in a country where we have normalized death. We are never touched. We want a Kenya where all of us collectively, individually, and more so for government, to ensure that we know and we value human life. So in that kind of Kenya, therefore, it will be very difficult for those we have entrusted with the leadership in one way or the other to sit and plan how to travel almost 400 kilometers from Nairobi to go and bring a Kenyan to bring his life to an end in the most brutal manner. No. That's not the Kenya we want. And we want a certain Kenya, and we are going to get that Kenya. And I invite all of us, to contribute to creating that Kenya. Because like I say at the end of the day, that is a Kenya your grandchild is going to enjoy. Don't be too selfish. Don't think about yourself alone. Think about your children. Think about your grandchildren, little girls and boys playing happily, like Martin Luther King said. For him, it was a question of color. Holding hands, black and white, and in between, if there's green and yellow. Playing, little boys and girls. For me, it is little boys and girls playing in a country that is peaceful. A country that values human life. A country that makes people enjoy life. That's where we want your great-grandchildren to live. That's the Kenya we want. You have to help us create that Kenya. The Kenya we want is a Kenya where no police officer ever fires a live bullet. A live bullet that may bring the life of a Kenyan to an end. Especially when that Kenyan is not a criminal. We want a Kenya where the police protect demonstrators, help them, guide them, show them not here, not this street for this reason. You can only use this street, and even then for 30 minutes. After that, you can go to Jivanji and have your meeting. Because this is a working day. We don't want to interrupt business. But make your point. We guard you. In South Africa, there's even an army band, a police band, guiding the demonstrator. That's the Kenya we want. It's a Kenya where dissent is acceptable. Where people disagree, where people shout. There can't be a Kenya where people can only say good things about you, because that's not real. Even in your own house, these Gen Zs tell you things. Tell you mzee hapa hapana. Mama hii hatuwezi, hii tumekata. They tell you. So now when you are at the national level, you now want to create a utopian state. Your own children tell you things. Your own children tell you off. They refuse to go where you want them to go. They refuse the schools you give them, and you take them to the schools they want. They refuse to eat. Young little girls of 9 in your house, nasema mami mi school leo hii. Tumekula hii kila siku hatutaki. Now when you go outside there, now you are a Madam PS somewhere. You want to create another world where nobody can criticize you. Let's be real. The Kenya we want is a Kenya where we will disagree, but we will all know this is our country. And that whatever you do contributes to making this country a good place or a bad place. We don't want a Kenya where a policeman carries a baton, a big rungu, and they want to land that big rungu on the skull, the head of a Kenyan. That's not the Kenya I'm looking at. Because that Kenya, fellow Kenyans, that Kenya is not sustainable. I've watched in the past few demonstrations, 2023, 2024, and recently, last week or this week. I've watched, and I'm a worried man, and I've said it before. When we get to a place where the citizens don't care about the police, we have lost the country. If you followed even this week's demonstrations, when the citizens begin to chase the police in the streets and overpower the police, we have lost our country. So every time you leave your house as a leader with command responsibility, beginning from the president, the intelligence chief, the inspector general police, the director of DCI, whatever they call them. Is it a director of DCI or DCI? Whatever it is. Down to the police constable. When you get out of your house, think about Kenya being there tomorrow. As you enjoy your office today, ensure other Kenyans will enjoy the same office, because they will find Kenya still intact. But above all, whatever decision you make, you have to know it contributes towards creating a certain Kenya. And that Kenya that you are helping create is where your children will grow and live, is where your grandchildren will grow and live, is where your grandchildren will grow and live. So the choice is yours. What kind of Kenya do you want your children and grandchildren to grow in? Do you want your children to grow in a Kenya where you can lose your life anytime at the whims of somebody? Where your teenage boys playing with Twitter, Facebook, and they mention an individual, and that individual comes for your granddaughter? Is that the Kenya you want? I doubt that's the Kenya you want. But by your actions today, that's the Kenya you want. Join us in having the Kenya we want, where we are all happy to the extent possible. Where state violence is used in the manner that is internationally acceptable. That the police have guns because they may need those guns to fight criminals. And Kenyans will buy those guns and buy the bullets and pay the police and give them uniform and give them the power and authority to kill by law. but not turn the same gun to kill an innocent Kenyan. A child whose father has paid the taxes to buy that gun and to pay that policeman killing that child. That can't be the Kenya we want. That can't be the Kenya you can be proud of yourself. That can't be the Kenya you want your granddaughter to live in. We are busy creating a Kenya. I must end by saying this, that we are busy creating a Kenya. And it is your contribution. And it's the Kenya we want. Make your contribution in sync with the Kenya we want. I hope you have heard.